How can Saudization, Emiratization, and other policies like this impact your Canadian temporary visa applications like a visitor visa, study visa, and a work permit? And what can you do to avoid such refusals? We'll discuss a recent case from the Federal Court of Canada and share some insights in this video. Policies like Saudization mean that expats in the GCC region end up with fewer job opportunities and their careers might be cut short as more and more jobs are reserved for citizens of these countries. And when you apply for a Canadian temporary visa, such as a visitor, study, or a work permit, it is processed in a local visa office. For residents of Saudi Arabia, the visa office is Riyadh, and for the residents of UAE, Qatar, Oman, the visa office is Abu Dhabi. And the visa officers sitting there know the local conditions and trends, and that's why Saudization can often be a reason for refusal of these types of applications, because the visa officers believe that once you leave Saudi Arabia, you won't be able to go back there for two reasons. One, because your residence is dependent on your job, and once you leave to study or for a work permit, you won't be able to return. And the second reason is policies like Saudization, which is making it even more difficult for expats to get jobs in the kingdom. On this topic, let me share a fascinating legal decision from the Federal Court of Canada. This story begins with a work permit application under International Mobility Program. This application was submitted by someone aspiring to be an entrepreneur and starting a women's clothing retail store in Thunder Bay, Ontario. So this is outside of the Greater Toronto area, and this work permit application was very crucial because it was also going to impact this person's family visas, like his children's study permits and his spouse's open work permit. And this work permit application was through the entrepreneur category, so most probably Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, the entrepreneur stream. And this application was refused on Feb 2022 by the Riyadh visa office because the visa officer had two main objections. First, the visa officer doubted the applicant's intention to leave Canada after his work permit duration was over. Second, they doubted the viability of the proposed business. They had some concerns like the applicant hasn't identified the suppliers and the customers clearly. The office space that they have reserved and shown in the application only costs $203 a month. That space does not seem appropriate enough for a retail business like this. So even though this applicant was applying through a business immigration program and had solid finances, yet the visa officer scrutinized the applicant's business plan. The officer questioned the speculative income sources and lack of evidence for vendor or clients. Another angle was the applicant's ties to Saudi Arabia. The applicant was a chief accountant, and the visa officer wrote in the GCMS notes that this occupation is subject to Saudization, and thus it doesn't seem likely that the applicant will be able to return to Saudi once he leaves his current job. So the applicant challenged this decision in the Federal Court of Canada by hiring a law firm. The court's decision focused on reasonableness and procedural fairness, but the verdict, the visa officer's decision, was upheld. So the judge did not overturn the decision or send it to a different visa officer. The judge said that the visa officer is an expert and they know the local conditions. So they made a good decision. And the judge also said that the requirement for procedural fairness in temporary visa matters is very low. What this means is that the visa officer doesn't have to send you an email asking you to give additional evidence before refusing your temporary visa applications. As you know that in permanent visa applications, visa officers will often send you a letter before refusing your application. They will give you a chance to respond. But in temporary applications, visitor visa, study, or work permit, your application just gets refused. And that's what the judge said, that the procedural fairness requirement is very low in temporary visa matters because Canada receives more than 1 million temporary applications each year. So they can't be sending out letters before every refusal. So even though the applicant had presented a business plan to show how he would invest 200,000 Canadian dollars in the business, the application was refused and the judge was not convinced. The final decision by the judge was rendered in January 2024, about a week ago, and the judge's point of view was that it was the applicant's responsibility to ensure he proactively addressed any concerns the visa officer might have, like Saudization. So this is the learning from this case. If you're living in the GCC region, you have to do your best effort to address upfront the issue of Saudization and weak ties to the GCC region, even if you're living in UAE, Qatar, Oman, etc. I have a few videos on this and related topics in the channel that you can check out. I will link the playlist. By the way, if you have a comprehensive list of occupations that are impacted by Saudization, do share with me in the comments. I tried to search for that list. I couldn't find one comprehensive list of all the occupations. And if your occupation is being impacted by Saudization, make sure you provide a lot of evidence to show that you'll be able to either find another job or you'll be able to move on to an occupation that is not impacted by Saudization, or that there will be more opportunities for you in neighboring countries or your country of citizenship. This shouldn't just be a statement, it has to be backed by solid facts. I'm a licensed Canadian immigration consultant from Canada. If you need me to apply for your Canadian visa, you can get in touch. Details are in the description. Thank you and take care.